Today is our pass catchers rankings with the upcoming draft.
I'm still personally convinced that if he was in the draft last year, he would have been the number one receiver on the board.
He honestly might be just the most impressive pass catcher after the catch, and all in tight end, wide receiver, doesn't matter. When after the catch, he's hard to take down. He finds open space. He cuts well for someone his size. It's really impressive what he does.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the WNP podcast. I'm your host, Mike Mitchelson. Joining me today, as always, my co-host, Chase Crawshaw. Chase, how are we feeling on this kind of gloomy over here in East Lansing? I don't know. How's it over there in the Shelby Twip?
So I'm pretty swell. Thank you for asking. It's a little dark, cloudy. I don't mind it. What? I start every episode like this. Shut up.
Yeah, I didn't ask, though.
Okay, too bad. I'm doing swell. I'm going to say that always. Normally I'm looking out this window, it's pretty sunny and it's kind of hard looking at my computer, but this time, the clouds are blocking the sun, so it makes the lighting in my room a little better. It makes it way better to see my computer, so I'm not really complaining.
All right, well, that's pretty cool. Speaking of doom and gloom, Alec, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So quickly wanted to let all the listeners know the schedule for the WNP podcast. A lot of good stuff coming. Today is our pass catchers rankings with the upcoming draft. And then next Thursday, April 1st, we will be doing offensive line and interior defensive line. The 8th, we will be doing edge rushers and linebackers. The 15th is the secondary positions. And then on the 22nd, we have that alternating mock draft that we've been hyping up. Our buddy Chris is getting on the show. He's doing some research right now. He said he already has like 2 pages, of notes, and that's only through his first 2 teams. So that's interesting. So that'll be the week before the draft. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up, but pass catchers today. And I've had some trouble. What about you guys? I know I told you guys in the text that every time I watch more and more film, I just contemplate switching up my list every time.
So I had I had a pretty concrete top 10, but one guy I ended up kind of sneaking into here as he's more of a boomer bust kind of guy. So his rankings a little bit based on that. If he flops, it could be catastrophic. We'll talk about it when we get there. But if he works out, it could be great. So he's really the only guy that's hopped in. Everything else has stayed pretty close to the same for me from when the season ended.
Yeah, I actually made a list up before I started watching film just to see what changed it, and I ended up switching around a lot of my guys. My rankings are very different from when I first started. I ended up taking a couple guys off, adding 2 new ones, so kind of in that same boat. I like a lot of receivers in this draft, so this is definitely a podcast I'm very excited for.
Yeah, and Alec, you said you had some hot takes with your rankings, so excited to get there. But before we do, free agency winding on down. Not really much to talk about on that end. Not much breaking news that has happened over the last couple days, but I did want to get the Lions fans' take on Kenny Golladay going to the Giants. He got a big deal. I didn't think he was going to get as much money as he did, so I thought it was a stupid idea to go long-term when you could go short-term and then get a bigger deal next year. But he did get the money he was looking for, so I take back the statement of it being stupid, because if you're going to get the money, might as well take it, right?
Yeah, I mean, he got the money he was offered here in Detroit. They offered him $18-19 million a year, which was at least rumored, I should say. So, I mean, he got that same money going to a team that's probably more set up for success. Is Daniel Jones the guy? We're definitely going to see that this year. There's no reason Daniel Jones should have any failure if he has any sort of NFL talent. So it's an interesting situation. This could be great for Kenny Golladay and could be great for Daniel Jones, or it could be bad for both of them, because if Daniel Jones doesn't work, then that whole team's just going to fall catastrophically. Kenny Golladay is going to have a down year, but Kenny Galladay's getting his money at the end of the day. If he was able to get that long term, like you mentioned, for a lot of money. So I mean, more power to him. He didn't have to go that Juju route.
I was an advocate for the Bengals actually signing Golladay to a 1-year deal. That was before I thought that he would get the money that he was looking for, because obviously you look at all these other receivers, none of them are really getting huge contracts like these long-term ones. But he got his money. I love Galladay, but I don't like the Giants, so I'm not really going to be rooting for him anymore, unfortunately. If he went to the Bengals, I would have been rooting for him, but good for him to get the money. I don't think he's going to have as good of a season as he had under Stafford, because I don't believe in Daniel Jones. Also, that offense is going to be completely run through Saquon with him coming back this year. So I don't know if it's the best thing for his career, but he got the money, so good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't remember if I told you guys what I was seeing on Twitter. I might have told Chase, or it might have been Johnny I was talking to when talking about it. But a Lions Twitter, I think it was Detroit Moments or something, said that hopefully Galladay knows that going to a Daniel Jones-led offense isn't going to bring the numbers that he saw with a Stafford-led offense. And then Giants fans were firing back, saying that Stafford was the reason the Lions were bad. Stafford had all the weapons around him. He's the reason they couldn't make it to the playoffs. So wanted to get your guys' take on that really quick. Chase, if you did, if it was you I was talking to, I probably got yours already, but fire away anyways.
Wrong. Just wrong. I don't know what else to say. Sorry, it's just flat out wrong.
I mean, I just said I'm not a Daniel Jones believer, and I don't think he'll repeat the numbers, so I obviously think that is wrong. I think that Daniel Jones isn't even considered a serviceable starter in the NFL. There are backups that I would take over him at this point.
And just wait till you see what the Rams do this year with Matthew Stafford, because it's gonna be a big difference. You're gonna see his true talent. He has great weapons around him. He has an offensive line. Cam Akers might be on the verge of doing something really good. So Stafford, he is in one hell of a position to have a lot of success. And if he has that success, it's just gonna shut up a lot of the haters, which I really hope for.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to agree. Not a Daniel Jones guy over here. Chase thought their defense would be top 10 or top 15, whatever it was. Wasn't the case. Maybe it is this year if he can prove anything, because they brought in extra weapons. But guys, let's get on to the main topics, and these are the draft eligible wide receivers. I told you before we hop into our rankings, I have two quick questions for you. So let me fire away. So first question, I want you guys to kind of take me through your thought process on Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. Feel free to let me know which one you like better, because that won't place them in the rankings anywhere, because obviously we've got 8 wide receivers that we're ranking, not just 2. So let me know your thoughts between the two of them, both from Alabama, both I think great wide receivers. So give me a little synopsis on why you may like one guy over the other.
I personally like Waddle better. I feel like we got a bigger sample size from him. I mean, I say that, but only because you look at Devontae Smith, I had never heard of him until this year, and yeah, he blew it up. But especially when you're going to the NFL, you have a guy like Smith who's 170 pounds at 6'1". That is not an NFL build for a wide receiver. Waddle a little bit bigger. He's always getting comparisons to Tyreek Hill, which I think is good comparison. And I even think that Waddle has the potential to be better than Hill, because he's more of a pure receiver, better hands. I feel like he can read the defenders better, a lot better than Devontae Smith. But I mean, I'm not knocking Devontae Smith. Obviously, he was a monster in college, a great player, but I have to go Waddle, mainly because of the build, but also, I don't know, he looks more like a natural football player to me than Smith does.
Yeah, and it's super close for me. I mean, the difference in players, there are obviously different types of players, but in terms of where I'd value them, it's pretty much even. Since I got to lean one way or another, I lean Devontae Smith. I'm usually a big fan of receivers coming from the college ranks to the NFL. I look for the physical tools. I look for, the athletic ability, and that's usually a lot more telling than production is when going to the NFL. But Devontae Smith's production is on a whole different level. When you have that kind of just pure production, regardless of being a kind of, lanky, skinny, scrawny player, that's pretty impressive. The SEC is the toughest, conference in college football. So that does factor into it. It makes you a little more ready for the NFL than some other conferences do. And I think he's going to put on 15 pounds probably anyway of muscle. He's going to have to. Like, whoever drafts him, they're drafting with high capital, they're going to make him. So he's going to bulk up a little bit. Not necessarily, be the same size as some other guys that are, that are 200, 210 pounds. But he'll have enough size where he'll be able to sustain himself. He catches every ball. He's not just a physical receiver. He's not just a route runner. He's not just a deep threat. He does everything like really well, which I really admire. Then you go to Jalen Waddle. He is, obviously incredibly fast. He runs a really diverse route tree. He's different than every other speed receiver there is because he's not just streak routes. He's truly, you can throw him on a slant, you can throw him to the post, throw him on a corner route. He can do whatever you need him to do. It's just pure dominance, and I think both these guys are going to have legitimate NFL success. But yeah, if I had to go one way, I'll take the reduction of Devontae Smith.
All right, and yeah, I think he's the first Heisman winner since, 1991? So obviously he had quite the season. So the thing with like bulking up, you would sure hope so, but the problem is he played at like 174 during the season, and then when he weighed in on his pro day, he was 170. So wouldn't you think he'd be bulking up already? So that concerns me a little bit, but I love both of them. And this is going to be a weird comparison, but I'm going to throw it out there anyways. I think that Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle is similar to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert last draft. And that's because Justin Herbert, he has all the athleticism. He's a little bigger, a little stronger. And Jalen Waddle, although not bigger height-wise, he does weigh a little bit more. He's more of a stockier build. He's faster. He's got the traits or the intangibles of a wide receiver that you absolutely love to see. Whereas Devontae Smith, he's not as fast, he's not as bulky, but he just plays the game so damn smart. The way he's able to find the empty areas in the secondary is just incredible. So that's going to be a weird comparison, but for some reason when I was watching those two, that's all I could think about. The upside with Waddle is insane, but the safety that Devontae Smith brings with just how smart he plays the game, absolutely love it. Right now, I think that because it's the wide receiver position, I'm slightly edging out the intangibles over the smarts just because of the position itself. Whereas quarterback, it could go either way. But my next question, try to think back to where you had Jeudy and Ruggs last year. Don't look at what they did in the NFL this year. Try to think back on what you rated them as a prospect. How do you rank these four Alabama wide receivers?
So, like, if they were all in the same draft class, you're saying, kind of, essentially?
Yeah. Like, think of them as prospects. So, like, obviously, the guys didn't have necessarily the best rookie season this year. So don't, like, take that into effect. Just think about them as what they were as prospects.
Well, this is easy for me. I'll go right away. It's Jerry Jeudy, and then, as I said, Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle are really close, but I'll go in my order. So Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Henry Ruggs. I was never in the boat. Henry Ruggs should have been a first round pick. If you want to take him in the late first round because you're a good team that could use him in a certain way, that was fine. Him being the first receiver off the board was just asinine. I had him, below a guy like Justin Jefferson, for example, just because like Ruggs, he has that great, breakaway speed, and he has, he runs a couple routes, but he doesn't run a full route tree, and he's not like a physical receiver. He has to be with his speed, and like he just, as we saw last year, it obviously didn't really happen. And it was kind of concerning going to the NFL for me, where, Jerry Jeudy, this was just a perfect route runner, great hands, didn't drop the ball, just everything you wanted in a receiver. Obviously had some struggles, but you can still see that the talent's there. And I think he's just like clearly the most talented of this group.
I agree 100% on Ruggs. I'm pretty sure I had him ranked as like my fifth or sixth last season. But obviously, since I had Waddle above Smith, I'd go Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, then Henry Ruggs. I was always kind of a Ruggs hater. I still don't think he's going to be that great. But my big thing with Jeudy, I'm still convinced he was the best receiver in last yeara's class. His stats may not have shown it, but I think if you threw Jeudy in Justin Jefferson scenario, then Jeudy would have had a better rookie stat line that Justin Jefferson did this last year, because they have similar skill sets, but I also think that Jeudy is better at like the same things that are all right. They have the same skill sets, but I would still think that Judy is better in almost every aspect compared to Justin Jefferson. So I still love Judy. I think if the Broncos can get a legitimate quarterback that's not Drew Lock, RIP, because I used to support him, then I think that Judy could be a perennial All-Pro and just light up the NFL. But
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you were forgetting about T. Higgins when you said best rookie wide receiver, but yeah, I would agree. I go Judy and then Waddle and then Smith and then Ruggs, and right now Waddle and Smith are so neck and neck with me, and that's why I was saying every time I watch more film, I contemplate switching stuff around. It's really those two that I keep going back and forth between, but I'm not as big of a Ruggs hater as you guys. Wow. I think he's much closer to a Marquise Brown type situation than he is a John Ross situation. I don't think he's a bust at all. I'm excited to see what he can do because obviously he had to deal with some injuries, and Derek Carr isn't really the guy that you want throwing 40, 50-yard bombs when Ruggs has a guy beat. So I'm interested to see what he can do in his second year, hoping it's better. So we'll have to wait and see. But how this is going to work, guys, we have 8 wide receivers to talk about, and then we will give an honorable mention or 2. Then we will talk about our top 4 tight ends, and then we will do our top 6 combined pass catchers. So this will include tight end and wide receiver. So who knows? Maybe our 4 tight ends break into the top 6, and we only have 2 wide receivers. Who knows what happens? I wanted to do the combination, though, because if you didn't know, there's kind of a supreme talent at the tight end position that a lot of people have even talked about changing him into a wide receiver, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's first go over our our wide receivers. Or do we want to go tight ends first?
I don't give a hoot. I'll leave it up to you. You're the driving the ship here. We're just passengers.
True.
Hell, let's just go tight ends first because I think we can talk about the one guy, and then I think there's 2 other guys that are pretty talented as well. The 4th one I feel like kind of drops off, but yeah, let's go our top 4 tight ends first. So whichever you guys want to take it away, give us your top 4, and then after everyone goes through, we'll slowly talk about them.
Alrighty. Number 1, obvious choice. If you have anyone other than Kyle Pitts here, you don't know anything about football. Number 2,
I have Nick Eubanks. Sorry.
Oh, okay, it makes sense. Number 2, Brevin Jordan. I don't know if I'm saying that right. From Miami.
Yep.
This one I'm definitely gonna butcher. Pat Freiermuth. I don't know. I didn't really listen. When I was watching film, didn't really listen to the announcers very much. So probably should have done that. And then number 4, Tony POLJAN. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. By the way, it's Freiermuth, but like Freiermuth or something. Like
close enough. Whatever.
Get Alec on Hockey Name of the Day for the Bolts Project.
Honestly.
All right, Chase, what's your 4?
My 1 through 3 is the same. Kyle Pitts, Brevin Jordan, Pat Freiermuth. I was starting to see more and more Pat Freiermuth above Brevin Jordan, which is fine because Freiermuth is he's still a hell of a tight end. He's gonna be a little more of your all around guy compared to Brevin Jordan, and Kyle Pitts of course too. But so he'll be a little more useful in the blocking game and in the run game, whereas Brevin Jordan is closer to Kyle Pitts than he is to Pat Freiermuth, where he's that move tight end. He's gonna catch the ball. So I'd be okay with you going either way. But with the way the NFL is nowadays, just give me Brevin Jordan. So, yep, Kyle Pitts, Brevin Jordan, Pat Freiermuth. And then my 4th is Hunter Long out of Boston College. Good size. I'll talk about him more when we need to. But, yeah, there's my 4.
Gosh, just terrible takes right there. Honestly, probably the worst takes on WNP podcast history.
He's going to say the exact same top 3.
So I've got Kyle Pitts at number 1. Brevin Jordan I've got as 2 as well. I just like his upside. I mean, you were talking about how Freiermuth is going to be more well-rounded, where Jordan, he's got more upside in the passing category. However, he is a little bit a little bit on the shorter end of tight ends. So, but yeah, and then Tommy Tremble from Notre Dame, he is my fourth guy. So let's first talk about Kyle Pitts. Guy's kind of a scrub from Florida. They're talking about, he's for sure a lock in the top 10. He could go top 5. Some idiot on Twitter, I think his name was like Mike Mitchelson at Mitchelson21, said, "Give me Kyle Pitts" or something like that. I don't get it.
That guy's stupid.
Okay. All right, that was Kyle Pitts. We'll move on to Brevin Jordan now.
But do you want to say real quick, honestly, for Kyle Pitts, if anybody listening just happened to not see it, the dude's 6'6", 240 and ran a 4.46 40-yard dash unofficially. I'd say that's okay.
I actually saw a tweet the other day saying that Kyle Pitts is a mix of Calvin Johnson and Darren Waller. And watching all this film in the last 2 days, I understand the comparison. The dude is an absolute monster. He is nuts. Like, I kind of wish that we didn't draft T.J. Hawkinson so that I would feel happy about us drafting Kyle Pitts. But
I'd still feel happy if they draft him anyway, just because he's so fun to watch.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm hoping Kyle Pitts goes to the Bengals right now. And the one thing I'm super excited about, in my Dynasty League, I've got the number 5 overall pick. So that means I'm either going to get Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Kyle Pitts, or one of the top 3 running backs. I'm pretty happy with that.
Hey, Mike, you want to trade back to 11?
No, I do not.
Hey, Mike, you want to trade back to 208?
No, I do not. You guys can hit up Johnny. I'm sure he's selling his 1, 3, and 4.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, he won't even take Derrick Henry for 2 of his picks.
Yeah, he's well, I wouldn't either because Derrick Henry's trash. But
well, Derrick Henry's not trash, but I don't think I would do that.
All right, well let's move on. I mean, if you're unaware of Kyle Pitts, I would just say go watch him because he is spectacular. He is the most offensively gifted, the most gifted and like the pass catching ability that we've just seen in quite some time. And like Hawkinson and Noah Fant, they were incredible coming out. This guy, I think, is just at another level of Fant and just at a different level of Hawk, because just Hawk does more well-rounded stuff where Kyle Pitts just an absolute offensive dynamo. So he's awesome. But let's move on to Brevin Jordan, tight end out of Miami. Chase and I mentioned him just briefly when we were going through our list, even though we weren't supposed to. I guess.
Yeah, whatever.
I guess we're rule breakers. But who wants to go in depth with this guy a little bit more here?
I'll start on it because I'm a big Brevin Jordan fan. I think should be an early day 2 pick. Like early in the second round specifically too. He claimed that he ran a 4.56 40-yard time on his own. They haven't had their pro day yet, Miami, so we'll see what he actually runs. But if he ran a 4.56 at 6'3", 245, that's incredibly impressive. When you watch his film, he honestly might be just the most impressive pass catcher like after the catch, and all like in tight end, wide receiver doesn't matter. When after the catch, he's hard to take down. He finds open space. He cuts well for someone his size. It's really impressive what he does. Obviously, he's not as elite as Kyle Pitts in terms of like actually catching the ball, running routes, and getting that separation. But he's a little bit better blocker, even though he's still not going to be used quite as that in the NFL. He has all the tools you want as a true like number 1 receiving threat at the tight end position. He could be a very deadly weapon for a team.
I definitely agree. I don't know if I'd agree with you about open field ability, like him being up at the top. There's definitely a few guys on my receiver list that I would, without a doubt, take over him. I'm pretty sure we actually had a conversation a few months ago where you were bringing up Brevin Jordan. And at the time, I was not huge on him. I saw him as basically like a poor man's Kyle Pitts. But watching more and more film, he is definitely growing on me. I think that he's going to be a very legitimate weapon for whatever team drafts him in the NFL, and I think he's going to have a great career. So, I also agree he should go early second round. Well, I don't know about early. I'd say mid late second round, just because he can't block at all. Like Kyle Pitts can hold his own to some extent, but Brevin Jordan he can't block at all based off of what I've seen. So
here before Mike interjects, here's what I really want. What I think would be perfect. So like we saw, like for example, like Noah Fant is a zero blocking tight end, and he was still a first round pick, and he's starting to show some signs that he could be effective if Drew Lock wasn't just the worst quarterback in the league. But Brevin Jordan, if the Jags, if they whoever they take with their second pick in the first round, if they feel comfortable and they just want to get another piece for Trevor Lawrence, take Brevin Jordan with your first pick in the second round, and you have one impressive offense for a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, who do they got? Trash. LaVisca, trash.
What do you
DJ
mean?
Chark,
Who do they
trash.
got?
Marvin Jones.
LaVisca, DJ Chark, Marvin Jones, be Brevin Jordan, James Robinson, Trevor Lawrence.
So
a
all
pretty
of Chase's
solid
man
O-line.
crushes.
Hell yeah, I love the Jags, baby.
I like Brevin
Why
Jordan.
don't you marry him?
True.
I would if I could. I'll get rich.
I like Brevin Jordan. I think he's a little bit more of a project than you guys do. I don't think day one he's going to be able to be tight end one unless you're in the worst position possible, which would be the Jags at the tight end position. He definitely needs help in pass blocking, and with his size, it's not a huge deal. But at the tight end position, when you got to be faster than everyone, or faster than linebackers, but also bigger than the corners, that's not really it yet for Brevin Jordan. I think he can be an absolute playmaker. I think he just needs a little bit of time. And I'm a little disappointed in Miami because how did they not realize that this guy was going to be a great weapon for them until their third to last game? Come on.
Yeah, honestly.
So, but I do like him. I think he can be an offensive playmaker for sure. I think he just needs a little bit of time. If it were me and I was the Bengals at pick number 5 in the second round, I wouldn't take him. There's more needs to be had than having a Brevin Jordan be there with CJ Uzoma and the best second round pick of all time, Drew Sample.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your boy Pat Freiermuth. We're saying more well-rounded. I think this guy can actually start day one because he's got that blocking ability and because he can help in the receiving game too. He's not going to be an offensive dynamo type player unless he is, because George Kittle, he wasn't expected to be amazing, and sure enough, he comes out and he's a top 3 tight end in the league right now. But as of right now, he's a guy that can start for me, but he's not going to be a guy I look to as being a number 1, number 2, or maybe even number 3 weapon in my offense.
What I think would be great for Pat Freiermuth is if he could end up in an offense where they have a legit number 1 receiving threat tight end and they're willing to run 12 personnel. You can use him as a blocker. You can use him receiving the ball, but you don't have to rely on him as your dude. It can kind of, give him a little bit of some time to learn, behind a legit pass catcher, learn the blocking schemes a little bit better and become a very good blocker at the tight end position. And he could very well end up being a legit, threat at tight end position for a long time if that happens.
Now, see, I didn't really know much about him until I watched his film, and based on the film that I watched, I kind of disagree with you guys. I think he could be number 1 tight end. Obviously, he's not going to be the number 1 threat or anything like that. But when the dude, when he's going out as a receiver, I see glimpses of Gronk. And I know that's kind of
he gets called Baby Gronk, by the way.
Okay, yeah, I definitely understand that because he's 6'5" and he runs like a fullback. He absolutely I saw 2 or 3 different plays where he absolutely demolished a safety, put him in the ground hard. And it's just the fact that he can do that downfield while still in a full sprint and gain more yards and not lose all of his speed there, while also being, I think he's almost 260, something like that, and also being a great blocker. I think that he could be a legitimate weapon for a team. I do think he's going to need some polishing. I think he has the skills to start right away, but not be an immediate offensive weapon. I think he'll need to grow in that aspect, but I definitely think he could do it.
Yeah, and I'm just disappointed that he had to go up against terrible defenses like Michigan and Maryland.
Michigan State.
No, cap. Not true. But yeah, I like Freiermuth, and he's another day 2 guy for me, second, third round. And now we go to our fourth guys, and we all have different guys. So, Chase, you can talk about your guy next. But I think the top three that we just mentioned, those are the only guys that I would be willing to take on day 1 or 2. I think everyone else I'm looking at is day 3.
Yep, agreed. Hunter Long is my fourth guy. I would take him in the 5th round at the earliest. He'll probably end up going in the 4th because the team will take him out of need. He's a really good catcher. Like he's really good in contested catches, but he does not run the ball very well. He's kind of slow. You're not going to really hit him downfield. You might be able to find him in the end zone. He's going to win matchup against linebackers, which is great and all. And he's a solid blocker. He holds his own. He's never going to be like he'll never be a legitimate number 1 tight end. And obviously, unless something crazy happens, like he has like Kittle type of growth, which that could always happen. But projecting and based on what he's shown on his film, what he's shown in college, it really just does not seem that way. It seems like he'll be someone, you'll use him reliably as a blocker. You can use him to catch the ball. You're not going to target him, like 70, 80 times a year. You might be 30, 40 to 50. So, he'll get some catches, he'll get some use, but he'll be mostly just kind of a tight end too.
Yeah, for sure. And Alec, we'll talk about your guy next. But before I do that, I just want to say that tight ends are just so damn hard to project. Like, unless it's like a top guy who's just looks insane, Kyle Pitts. So, like, don't necessarily hold that over us. I mean, look at Hayden Hurst. Like, he just had his first good year, decent year, and he was a first-round pick. And I think he's like 27 now because he got drafted at like 29 or something. That's math, by the way. Yeah, that's math, by the way. So yeah, I mean, don't hold it over us, but I mean, at the same time, you can hold it over us, but just know it's tight end. So, Alec, let's get to your number 4.
All right, I'm gonna be honest. Don't know how to say his last name. I'm gonna say Tony POLJAN. It's POLJAN.
I'm pretty sure it's how you say it.
Okay. And the funny thing is, I put him on my list because I actually watched some of his high school highlights. He was a quarterback at Lansing Catholic High School in Lansing, Michigan, and his passing stats weren't great, but he ran for over 1,000 yards and 22 touchdowns as a junior or sophomore in high school. So, like, I thought that was kind of nuts. And then his first year actually playing tight end, I think, was his junior year at Central Michigan. And he ended up being all MAC, which obviously the MAC conference isn't all that competitive. But like the first time he ever played tight end, he ended up getting all conference. So, and then he ended up transferring to Virginia. Not totally like overwhelming stats. He only had 411 yards, 6 touchdowns, but he's 6'7", 265. He is a monster, and I just like watching his film. Like he's slow. To an extent, like he runs fast for how big he is, but I think he could even be a better run blocker than Freiermuth based off what I've seen. And I'd say that even though he didn't go up against as good of competition, so maybe if he was in Freiermuth's situation, he wouldn't be doing as well, but he's a monster, and he can run. He knows how to run with the ball. Like I said, he played quarterback in high school and had quite a few rushing yards, so I think he could be a good red zone threat. Saying that, like I said, 6'7", sure hands. I think he only had 1 drop in the 2 years that he played tight end in college. I saw it was 1 or 2. So I think he definitely, obviously, needs some polishing because after the top 3, you're not really going to find anyone that doesn't. But I think he's in the same boat as the guy Chase said. Be a solid, like number 2 tight end. Get those touchdowns for you in the red zone, but not really ever surpass anything over like 300 or 400 yards.
Gosh, I wish he stayed at quarterback. Could you imagine a 6'7", 265-pound quarterback?
That would be nuts.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Oh, and I see now that it is absolutely pouring rain. So if you can hear it on the show, I apologize, but there's no rain out my left window, but out my window in front, it is pouring. I don't know how that works.
It is very sunny at my house right now, so that's interesting.
Rip. Well, my number 4 guy is Tommy Tremble from Notre Dame. This guy, I think, is the best blocker out of the tight end group. He is hard-nosed. He's going to punch you in the mouth, and that's what I love. If there's a guy that I can get on day 3 that is a master in a certain skill, like pass blocking as a tight end, then that's great. So that's what I have at my number 4, Tommy Tremble. He can even play in the fullback position and lead the way for the running back. So that's why I have him at my number 4. I like that he's got high-end skill and at least one factor, even if it's not the most admirable factor.
Yeah, that's fair. It's not a guy I've watched a ton on. I should watch a little more on. But I mean, I know about him. No issue with the pick. And you know, from what I have seen, kind of agree. Yeah, you know, a tough dude, kind of hard hitter. He'll do the gritty things. I mean, he's the perfect player for Dan Campbell. Maybe they take a little late round flyer on him, make him tight end number 2 behind T.J. Hawkinson, just punch someone in the nose, bite off a kneecap. Wouldn't that be something?
Little first round pick, Tommy Tremble. I mean, you need another tight end in the first round.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, well, let's move on to our wide receivers. And so we're going to go through our top 8, talk about them a little bit more in depth. And then after we get all the names out, after we get the top 8 out and talk about them a little bit more in depth, then we're going to go on to our honorable mentions, because who knows, maybe an honorable mention is no longer an honorable mention because people have them in their top 8. So let's go through that now. Chase, you can lead us off, then Alec right after, and then I'll follow up with the best top 8 available.
Okay, so my number 1, Jamar Chase, obviously sat out this season, so you don't have the season to look at, but tremendous sophomore season, true sophomore, ended up winning best receiver in college football. As a 19-year-old, he just dominated, led the league, led the country, I should say, in receiving touchdowns. I mean, he's just a true alpha receiver. I mean, he dominated the SEC, great instincts, incredible route runner, you know, good speed, good hands. He has everything you want him to do. He can run any route. I would be shocked if he can't come in and be a 1,000-yard receiver right away, because he just has every tool that you would want from that kind of receiver.
Hey, buddy, this is just your 1 through 8.
Oh, yeah, true. I don't know why I started reading the whole thing off on him. But regardless, there's my Jamar Chase take. Number 2, Devontae Smith. Number 3, Jalen Waddle. I don't know why I just went off on that tangent there. I love Jamar Chase a ton.
It's another one of your loves.
Exactly.
Your man crushes. So we get it. We get
1,000 of them. Yep.
Exactly. All right. So yeah, I'll go back to the top. Jamar Chase number 1, Devontae Smith number 2, Jalen Waddle number 3, Rashad Bateman number 4, Rondale Moore number 5, Tamorrion Terry number 6, Terrace Marshall number 7, and Amon-Ra St. Brown number 8.
Mine is going to be spicy. So just hear me out. I got Jamar Chase number 1, Jalen Waddle number 2, Rashad Bateman number 3, Rondale Moore number 4, Devontae Smith number 5, Terrace Marshall. Gosh, where is it? It's Marshall, right?
Terrace Marshall.
Okay, just making sure. Number 6, Kadarius Toney number 7, and Tylan Wallace number 8.
All right, and Chase, sorry, who was your number 7 again? I missed that.
Terrace Marshall.
Okay, so my 1 through 8, Jamar Chase number 1, Jalen Waddle number 2, Devontae Smith number 3, Rashad Bateman number 4, Kadarius Toney 5, De'Ami Brown 6, number 7, Rondale Moore. I know you guys thought maybe I didn't have him. No, I do. Amon-Ra St. Brown number 8. That means Terrace Marshall not on my list, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. Let's talk about Jamar Chase first. All 3 of us have him as our number 1. We know Chase loves him. He told us that in about like a 17-minute epilogue, but
like 15.
No, just kidding. Look, the thing for me, the only concern I have whatsoever for Jamar Chase is his release off of the line. There was a couple of times where I just saw him get held up at the line, and if he can't get out, then you're not going to be able to catch the ball. But I did see a tweet regarding that, and it's like, hey, the film we're watching on him was when he was 19 years old. He's going to be coming into the league, turning 21. So he's been working on it. Don't worry about it too much. That was my only concern. He's even a good run blocker. So my only concern was his release. And as long as he's working on it, there's no problem with me whatsoever saying he is one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen in quite some time.
I'm still personally convinced that if he was in the draft last year, he would have been the number 1 receiver on the board, even over Judy. I absolutely love him. It's definitely one of my favorite college receivers I've watched in my lifetime. And I didn't have any weaknesses down, but I had read a few things about, his release off the line. And I also mentioned in my notes that he is a great run blocker. I don't remember which game it was. There was a game I saw where he was blocking. I don't know. It was a safety, and I'm pretty sure it was a safety that ended up getting drafted, and he was like, he wasn't like actually putting him in the dirt, but like he was holding them there really well, and helped open up some pretty good run lanes. So I love that in a receiver personally.
Yeah, nothing else to add.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, the guy's great, but now we'll move on, and I think we have to talk about Jalen Waddle next because Chase has him at, what'd you say? Honorable mention?
3.
Oh.
No.
So, yeah, Jalen Waddle's next. We talked about him a little bit already, so we don't need to go too in-depth with him and Devontae Smith because we did talk about them arguing both sides, which one we liked better. Just a guy who's got pure speed, but also has the hands, also has the route tree. I mean, who doesn't want that?
Yeah, it's everything you want out of a number 1 receiver. So there's no issue with him being number 2. I could easily put him number 2. I've already explained why I didn't, though. He really doesn't have much flaw in his game. If he just somehow grows an inch or two as well, which is still possible. It's like, he's still like young 20s, like early 20s. It's not impossible to grow. If he just happens to like somehow hit 5'11", 6 foot, then like he could just be extremely ridiculous. But still at 5'10", 182 with that speed and the hands and the route tree, he's got everything you want.
My thing with him is when I watch him, I wouldn't think that he's 5'10", right? You said 5, yeah.
Yeah.
I would not think he's 5'10". He plays like he's like 6'1", 6'2". Like even though he's a pure speed receiver, he also plays he plays big, which I absolutely love. And it's weird seeing that he's actually 5'10", because if I was just watching games and know anything about him, I'd look at him and think like, oh yeah, he's probably like 6'1", 6'2". So I like I said earlier, he's drawn comparisons to Tyreek Hill, but I think that Jalen Waddle is basically he's like Tyreek Hill, but a better pure receiver. I think he's a better route runner, and he has better body control than Tyreek Hill. So then that's saying something.
Yeah, I think him and Jamar Chase definitely different levels. I think Devontae Smith's in a different level too. I think the top 3 guys for me are above the rest. But Alec does not agree. He has Devontae Smith at 6, right?
5.
5. Okay, my bad. But yeah, so Jalen Waddle, he's great. The only thing I've got a problem with is his run blocking, excuse me. He's got to work on that a little bit, and I still think that's better than Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith just gets blown up anytime he tries to run block. So Jalen Waddle, my number 2, Alex number 2, and Chase's number 3. I think we need to talk about Devontae Smith next, even though I think Rashad Bateman would probably statistically be the next guy. But let's go Devontae Smith next. We'll start with Alec. Why do you have him at number 5 rather than in the top 3 or even top 4?
My best pro comparison for Devontae Smith based on things that I've watched and read is Tavon Austin. Absolutely electric in college, had a similar skill set, great all-around player in college, and just went to the NFL and was never really all that great. And it's because of his frame. Obviously, Chase said earlier that he thinks that they're going to make Devontae Smith put on some weight. But I saw a tweet saying that he has no interest in putting on any weight. He said he's okay with playing at 170. He's happy with it. You just look at his build. He takes a medium-sized hit from a mediocre safety, and he's out for the season. And the fact that the guy I have above him, Rondale Moore, is 6 inches shorter than him and weighs 10 pounds more is just insane to me. I don't think that you can be 6'1", 170, and have legs that are as big around as 2 of my fingers and have a solid NFL career. I'm not denying that he was insane in college. Obviously, won the Heisman, great season. He has great football IQ, knows where to find those open holes. But like I said, so did Tavon Austin. Tavon Austin was one of the most electric college football players in history, and he did not pan out in the NFL because of his build, and that's why I have Devontae Smith at 5.
Yeah, so I watched the Alabama Pro Day. I heard the interview saying he's played at 170 and that he's comfortable playing there. It doesn't matter. If you're going to be a first round pick in the NFL, you're going to be forced to change. You're going to be forced to put on weight. If you don't put on the weight, the team won't use you and you'll be washed up. You'll eventually be released. That's what's going to happen. He doesn't have a choice. He's going to put on weight. He might slow down a tiny bit, but it's not going to make much of a difference. He's going to strengthen up a little bit and he should be just fine. If you can, he like absolutely just purely dominated. Nobody even came close last season playing at that size in college. So if he adds some weight, he could be a legitimate threat in the NFL right away because he has the hands, he has the route running, he has the separation, he finds the open space well, he's good in the red zone, he does everything that you need that number one receiver to do.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about his height and weight, not height, but his weight. That's why I have Jalen Waddle slightly ahead, but the IQ on this guy is immense, and let me explain that a little bit. There's games where I see him look over to Mac Jones and tell Mac Jones, give him some type of signal that, hey, there's going to be the corner that is right on me. He's going to be blitzing. Let me just go on a go route. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens, turns into a touchdown. There's times where he is on a comeback route and he's completely covered, so he moves 3-4 feet to the left, gets into the open area. I think this guy just plays with such high intelligence and is able to find the soft zones, is able to even communicate to the quarterback. Maybe the quarterback's not seeing the blitzing corner, is able to communicate that to the quarterback. That's one of the reasons why I have such an issue with contemplating, should I change it? Should I have Smith at number 2 instead of number 3? Right now I'm going to keep it as it is, but I think he is easily the smartest wide receiver coming into this draft.
Agreed.
All right. Yeah, I agree.
Let's move on to our number 4, Rashad Bateman. This is a guy that I absolutely love, and honestly, I was kind of hoping that he was going to be my number 2 wide receiver. Wasn't the case, and I think like Alec was saying with Jalen Waddle looks like he plays, at like 6'1", 6'2". I always thought Rashad Bateman was like a 6'3", 6'4" guy. Not the case, but he does play very physically. I would say he's probably the most physical receiver that we've talked about thus far.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. They're different kind of players, but like it reminds me really of Devontae Smith, where Rashad Bateman, he isn't just like a physical specimen. He isn't some crazy athletic freak. He can make some plays. I'm not saying he's bad athletically by any means, but he's not in the terms of like Rondale Moore or Jalen Waddle, or if you want to go like reaching Calvin or Kyle Pitts, like those. Like, he's not like that kind of guy. But he's just a good wide receiver. He gets it done. He's as smart as, not as smart as Devontae, but smart like Devontae Smith. He just produces kind of an underwhelming season in 2020. Minnesota, just kind of an underwhelming team though. What you saw in 2019 combined with just like the way he catches the ball, the way he runs with it, it didn't matter what he did in 2020. It locked him in as one of the top receivers in this draft, a first round pick. He could really be something special in the NFL.
He is without a doubt my favorite receiver in this class by a very large margin. I already had watched so much film on him before even knowing I was going to do this podcast, just because I love watching him play. And then watching it again just solidified that for me. That's why I have him at number 3, and he is without a doubt the best 50-50 ball receiver in this entire draft class, and it's not close either. He has absolutely insane body control. You see, like, the way that he can contort his body and catch these passes while also being covered is amazing. Everything I always see is comparisons to Kenny Golladay, and I think that's a knock on Rashad Bateman. I think Rashad Bateman is better than Kenny Golladay because he is faster and has better route running, but also has that 50-50 ball ability like Kenny Golladay does. I think that Rashad Bateman is going to be amazing at the pro level, and I cannot wait to see where he goes.
Yeah, I'm excited for Rashad Bateman, and definitely faster than Kenny Golladay. He ran a hand timed 4.3740 and a laser timed 4.3940. That's quite impressive for a guy who plays as physical as he does. And I will put it out there that I think, depending on situation, I guess I have to start with that. But depending on situation, like if he goes to the Colts, that would be perfect. I think that he could be the most productive wide receiver in year 1 out of this draft class. Even though I might not think his ceiling is as high as the other 3, I think right away he's going to be able to put on a clinic. So very excited for him.
I I'd agree real quick to throw in with that. It's like him and Jamar Chase. Those are like two guys that are just like their bodies are built for it. The way they play the game is just directly translatable to the NFL. There's gonna be no issues at all. Those two guys are gonna be absolute dogs as rookies.
Yeah, and you talked about body. They're going to be ready for it. Let's move on to a guy who is maybe not have the prototypical body for an NFL wide receiver. That would be Rondale Moore. Alec, you have him 4. Chase, you have him 5?
5.
And then I've got him number 7. So let's talk about it. Alec, you've got him number 4 above Devontae Smith. What do you love so much about Rondale Moore?
Honestly, before his pro day, I actually had Rondale Moore 5 and Devontae Smith 4. But watching his pro day is just, it was insane. He ran a sub 4.3. I don't remember exactly what it was. Was it a
4.28? I think.
Yeah, I thought it was something like that, which is great. Obviously, his vertical leap. When I saw it, I was like, wow, that's like really high. I think he had a 47.5-inch vertical leap, and then actually watching him jump is just nuts. Like seeing how high up like the little, I don't know what to call them, like the little peg things are, and like I'm like, how many of these is he actually going to hit being 5'7"? And he jumps and he just got so high up, and just the explosiveness in his legs is absolutely nuts. And obviously people are worried about his size. He's only 5'7". He's another one of those players that I think plays big. He doesn't play like he's like 6 foot. He plays closer to, I think, like, 5'9", 5'10", but he's so agile, so strong, so fast, and has very, very sure hands. I'm pretty sure Chase actually sent a tweet in our Twitter group chat that's saying that he did not drop a single pass in 2020. And it's not like he's playing with an amazing quarterback. So the fact that he is doing those things and has just absolutely like athletic freak, even though he is only 5'7", I'm so excited to see what he does in the NFL, and I think he has a shot to be one of the best slot receivers in the NFL once he can kind of come to his own.
So I've talked about Rondale Moore for quite some time. I think like he could be. I think it's possible at the end of his career he finishes as the best receiver in this draft class. I really don't think it's that far fetched. It's obviously not going to be an easy path to become the best in a group of anybody, regardless of who you are. But I think he has a possibility. So I'm gonna start talking about the physical stuff. Alec mentioned the 40-inch. He mentioned the vertical. I also want to throw this out there as a senior. I think it was summer going into freshman year of college, so and a senior year of high school. He squatted 600 pounds. Like it's insane what this dude does. You look at him, he looks like a mini Saquon Barkley. His freaking legs they're me. I am his leg. I'm each one of his legs. It's insane. They're massive. They're bulked, just kind of like me, massive and bulked. But like Rondale Moore has like all these physical tools that if they were on a bigger receiver, he would be viewed as the best like receiving prospect of all time. I want to say honestly, if he was 6'1", he would be put in the same like realm as Calvin as this best prospect of all time. He has just these incredible athletic abilities, and then when it comes to what he did on the field, he won the most versatile player as a true freshman in college football. That's incredible. 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns as a freshman just in the receiving game. He returned kicks, returned punts, returned a couple for touchdowns. He ran the ball too. He's going to be used. Like imagine Curtis Samuel was a true elite number 1 receiver. That's kind of what Rondale Moore is going to do. He's going to be used in the slot. You can use him outside. If you want to give him the ball on jet sweeps or handoffs, you can, and he's going to explode. He's someone, if you get him the ball 5-6 yards downfield, he turns into a 20-yard play. What he can do after the catch because of his shiftiness and his strength, it's just incredible.
I think he is easily the most athletically gifted player in this draft class. However, the fact that you combine his sophomore and junior season receptions, and they're not even half what he did freshman year, injuries, obviously, a little bit of a scare for him. COVID obviously shortened his season last year as well. And the one thing with Alex saying, the sure hand didn't drop a ball. I mean, he only had 35 receptions, so it's not like he had a ton of targets. And the one thing with me, I saw him doing a lot of body catching. And if the ball is placed perfectly there, then, that's not a bad thing. But the one thing that I see out of players that I did not see out of him in his tape was the full extension for the balls over the head or on the sideline. I'm sure he can do it, but the consistency and the extension that I saw out of the two guys that I have over him that we haven't talked about so far makes me put him down a little bit more. I think he's incredibly gifted, and I think he could be one of the best gadget players we ever see. I mean, think along the lines of Tyreek Hill, what all he can do on, sweeps and out for the catch and on punt returns, kick return. Like, he can do it all, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Just the pure receiving is the part I'm actually worried about. And that's not something that should be the biggest worry when you're talking about wide receivers.
So I truly believe that it's just a quick note. Like, once you see him in the NFL, depending on the team where he goes to, he could go to a bad situation. But if he goes to a team with an even competent quarterback, you're going to see those worries kind of vanish.
I hope so.
My big thing with putting him this high is, you guys probably remember, I don't remember if it was the last draft or the draft before, but the commentators just kept saying every team's trying to find their Devo, and it was pissing me off. But in this case, I really think that
This is your Devo.
Yeah, he really is. But I also think that he is better than Deebo Samuel, and I think I feel like he can play every receiving position, even running back if they need to, like bring him out of the backfield, and I think he could just, like you said, be a gadget player and just do everything well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping to see a little bit more consistency in that catching game. That's why he's my number 7. But this is a phenomenal wide receiver class, just like last year. I think my top 8 and even the honorable mentions that I have are fantastic and all can become, if not a wide receiver 1, at least a wide receiver 2. So let's move on to our next guys. I'm thinking either Kadarius Toney or Terrace Marshall are next.
Either one works.
All right, well, let's go. Do you guys both have Toney?
Yes,
I do not have Toney.
Okay, I don't have Terrace. So, alrighty, let's talk about Terrace Marshall first, and then we'll move on to Kadarius Toney.
He's another one of my favorite receivers in the class, kind of like Bateman. Also a similar type of player, but Terrace Marshall is 6'4", and I don't know. I'm pretty sure his 40 time is somewhere around, I don't know if he's ran it yet, but I saw predictions around the low 4.5s, and when you're at 6'4", I feel like that's a solid 40 time. And he doesn't have the type of speed to outrun defenders, but he has good enough straight line speed to actually get some separation here and there. But I also think that he is the only receiver in this class that can actually give Bateman a run for his money when it comes to the 50-50 balls. And another thing is, I think Terrace Marshall is one of those receivers that is straight up pro ready. He could go into pretty much any scenario and be in that number 2 receiver and play very well. And I mean, there's some, when you're standing at 6'4", you'd think that you'd be really good at run blocking. I've seen some issues where people say that he doesn't pick up the blocks where he's supposed to, but I mean, so that is one big thing. But when it comes to just being a pure receiver, I think that he is very pro ready and, like I said, great with those 50-50 balls.
So I want to mention this about receivers real quick with run blocking. It matters as long as they're willing to make somewhat of an effort and show that they're willing to block. I'm not worried about it, even if they're not that good at it. If they're just not willing to block at all, then that's an issue. But at the end of the day, you're drafting a receiver to catch the ball. And sure, the blocking's a part of it, but it's not like if they struggle in that spot, it's not make or break by any means. So with Terrace Marshall, as Alex said, he's got great size. It should be low 4.5s. He might sneak into the high 4.4s depending on how his training's been. He played in an LSU offense where he was behind Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, and then this year the LSU offense was just terrible. The quarterback play wasn't good. The running back play wasn't good. I mean, they lost almost all their starters. He was one of the few guys to come back, so it just never really worked out that well for him. But he is an absolute weapon in the red zone, and it's incredible because he's not someone I would classify as a red zone threat. He's obviously lethal. He's big. He's gonna jump up and catch the balls. But you're not going to just use him in the red zone like what the Bengals do with Untitled, for example, when they decide to use him. He's someone that just goes and has one specialty thing. Terrace Marshall can kind of do it all. You can use him in the slot. You can use him outside. He'll catch a lot of balls. He's scheme resistant. He's ready for any scheme, like Alex said. I would be shocked if he's not at least the team's number 3 receiver come the season.
Yeah, I like Terrace Marshall when he is getting the ball and when he's being that receiver that we like to see. The reason he's not in my top 8 is all of the plays where it was a run play or when he wasn't, the primary target, it kind of felt like he was taking the play off. There was times where I saw him not even attempt to throw a block. There were times where he was double teamed on a slant route, and instead of going all out and trying just to get past that double team or cutting back, trying to do a different route, doing something, he just kind of like slowed down and stopped. I didn't see him giving 100% every single time, and that's why he falls out of my top 8. I think when he is giving 100%, he would probably be there. But the fact that he's not doing it all the time at the college level worries me. So I think he's a talented wide receiver, a gifted wide receiver, and the size plus his jump ball is awesome. But that's my one gripe with him, and it's a pretty big one in my mind.
Interesting.
All right, let's talk about Kadarius Toney now out of Florida. Chase does not have him. Alec, where do you have him ranked? 7, and I have him at number 5. Alec, what did you see out of him that you liked? And then I can go into what I liked, and then Chase, if you want to end it off with why he's not in your top 8. But Alec, I'll let you go first.
All right, well, he's one of the players that I think that he could be higher or lower on my list. Like, I'm kind of iffy on him in some aspects. But, obviously he has great speed. With Kyle Trask throwing him the ball, that was a great duo for them, along with Kyle Pitts. He can play on the outside and in the slot very well, which I love. He was definitely very fun to watch. A lot of the film and the highlights that I was watching, I genuinely really did enjoy it. He isn't all that big. He's only 5'11", 190, but he doesn't play taller. He plays heavier. When you watch, he can break tackles a lot better than a guy than you'd think for a guy his size, which I absolutely love. And he also has the agility. In my opinion, he's the best after contact receiver on my list, and he's doing that like he's a running back sometimes. And I don't understand how he's only 190. I really don't. He looks so much bigger and stronger than 190. So that's why I like him. But the big reason why I am a little bit iffy on if I want to put him lower is because the fact that Florida did have Kyle Pitts. So he was not getting anywhere near as much attention as Pitts. Most people are focusing all of their defense on him. So I think if Florida didn't have Pitts, he would not be this high because I think he wouldn't have shown as much or been able to do as much. So I don't think he could really be a number 1 receiver in the NFL. I think he'd be a solid 2. But I did definitely enjoy watching this film.
Yeah, I really like Kadarius Toney, and I agree with you with the fact that he plays heavier and he's able to break the tackles. And there were times where he was coming across the middle and he got absolutely smoked by a linebacker, but held onto the ball. I think he is awesome after the catch, like you were saying. And one thing I didn't expect, he's an awesome run blocker. So I love that out of him, and I think the hype that he is getting in this cycle of coming into the draft is most definitely worth it. I love the hands. Everything about him is I love, because he's not a guy that is huge. He's not a guy that's going to beat Jalen Waddle in the 40 or anything, but he's just a guy that goes hard every time. And that's why I've got Kadarius Toney on this list and not Terrace Marshall, even though Terrace Marshall, more gifted athletically. Kadarius Toney, he's a guy that isn't going to back down from anything. He's going to smack a corner in the mouth, smack a linebacker in the mouth if there's a run and he's got a run block. He's going to do everything a team wants, and that's what I absolutely love about him.
All right, so now it's my turn?
Yeah. Tell me why you hate Kadarius Toney.
I definitely don't hate Kadarius Toney.
Him.
I think he's number 9 on my board. So if I'm not mistaken, I know he's on my honorable mentions. He's 9 or 10. Regardless, It's not me having anything against him. I think he's a good receiver. I think he can have a lot of success in the NFL. It's just I think my 8 guys are better. I just think that these guys can all be number ones. Kadarius Toney could be number 1, might be a number 2. This is just if I was projecting ceiling and projecting floor. I think Kadarius Toney, because as a floor, should still probably be at least a decent receiver too. So you can't go wrong picking them. My top 8 guys, if they went in the first round just based on their pure talent, I'd be like, all right, I've got no problem with that. Where Kadarius Toney, if he went in the first round, I'd be like, I feel like he might have been better served in the second round, but if he's your guy, that's fine. So I really don't have anything against him. It's fun watching him what he does. The only thing I would say is I don't know how elite it can all be at the NFL level.
Okay. Gotcha. Understandable. All right. Well, let's go into Amon-Ra St. Brown first, Chase. And then we will hit up our last 3 that we haven't mentioned yet. So Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC. He just came out. I think he ran, what was it, a 4.51 40.
Yeah.
And I know that's what you were talking about. You were a little disappointed, but he's a physical beast. He reminds me of Terry McLaurin, and kind of how Terry McLaurin, even though he's not the biggest guy, he'll still put the boom on people. He's still very physical. So that's why I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's got really good hands. He's a physical freak when it comes to like actual physicality, hitting people. So I really like him. He's my number 8. Chase, you can talk about him.
Yeah, he's also my number 8. That 4.51, it's a little disappointing. I thought he could have hit that mid 4.4s, and that would have been fantastic. But 4.51 isn't slow by any means. That's still, great speed. And combined with his, like, you look at the dude, and he's truly an alpha male. Like, he's just strong. He's built. He's toned. He's just a tough dude. He's not easy to take down. He's got great hands. You can trust him running routes. And I think he might even, I really thought he was going to run that mid 4.4s, maybe even low 4.4s, because like he plays faster than like what a 4.51 shows. It really is the case. I think he legitimately could be a team's number 1 receiver just based on how like all around solid he really is. He can go up, he can make a contested catch, he can go for those yards after catch if we need to. He can just do really like everything, like at least at a very good level.
Yeah, I really like him. Alec, do you know much about him? Why isn't he in your top 8? Why are you such a St. Brown hater? I know you hate Equanimous too.
He actually was my 8th receiver until I watched film.
Okay.
My reasoning is, obviously, like you guys said, like he is kind of explosive. He's kind of a physical freak, but when I watch him, there was a lot of scenarios where he looked lazy. Like coming out of like his route running and stuff, sometimes like his cuts, he wouldn't like cut super hard. He would just kind of like do like a half-ass kind of like little like not even like really a juke, and then just like run out, and then like the corner would be able to stay with him super easily. Another thing is there was multiple scenarios where I saw, like you see it in the NFL now, like he tried to turn upfield before the ball was in his hands and he dropped the ball. I saw that more often than any receiver that I watched film for. And that's a really big thing for me because, that's concentration. That's like basic football IQ. You got to catch the ball before you can run upfield. So I saw him like struggling with drops with that. When it comes to like, the spectacular catches and stuff like that, like diving for him, obviously he has sure hands. But when it comes to the concentration on some of these easy ones where he's trying to turn upfield, those are where he drops them.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to watch more tape on him now because I called out Terrace Marshall for looking kind of lazy. I didn't see that in Amon-Ra, but I'm gonna have to watch more tape on him for sure. I only watched 2 games, so I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. But we will move on. Chase, you got a guy that I absolutely love, so I think we're gonna save him for last. So sorry, not right, sorry. Alec,
it's such a shame because God, I love him.
Alec, we'll go with your number 8, and then the 2 people that we are talking about with the last 2 are both number 6s. I've got Dammy Brown 6, and Chase has Tamarian Terry 6. So, Alec, you should feel special that we're getting through your whole list before we even talk about our 6.
Yeah, I guess so. But I have Tylan Wallace from Oklahoma State. He was someone I didn't really know much about until I started watching film, and he's actually the one that I ended up putting over Amon-Ra St. Brown. He has great route running. I loved watching him. He was like I say this a lot, but like he's electric, and he dives for those balls that might look out of reach, and a lot of the time he'll catch them. He is great at sideline catches. You know, like I said, like spectacular catch. And another thing that I absolutely love about him is he's always fighting for extra yards. Whether it's on the sideline, he'll like reach the ball out or something like that, or try to tiptoe up the sideline even though he's about to get hit. Like he's willing to take those hits and to try and get the extra few yards. And he's not huge. I'm pretty sure he's like 6 foot, 190, 195, kind of around that area. There is one kind of knock to his game that I have. Like he's quick off the line, but he doesn't have downfield speed. Like he can get that like initial separation, but when it comes to like say he's running a streak route, the defender will be able to catch up to him. So that's obviously kind of an issue. But like on these shorter routes, so like if he runs out of the slot, like he's agile and can get off the line quick, get that initial separation, get that first down if you need to. And another like kind of knock on him is we've been talking about a lot of these guys playing bigger. He plays smaller. Like he's 6 foot 190. He looks skinnier than he is. Not like Devontae Smith skinny, but he looks smaller. So I do think he could, if he puts on some muscle, he could be a little bit better. But I also think if he puts on that weight and muscle, then he'll have even less downfield speed, which worries me. But when it comes to like I said, like fighting for extra yards, getting these spectacular catches, initial like off the line speed, those are the things that I really love about him.
Tylan Wallace is a guy that I had actually pretty highly ranked following the season. Going into the offseason, watched a little more, reading a little more, it started to change. The more I watched, the more I thought he's going to be just like exclusive to the slot in the NFL, which there's nothing wrong with being a slot receiver in the NFL. You can make your money, if you can be a tremendous receiver that way. But slot receivers should not be guys that go in the first, second round. Those are guys that you take third round plus, because they're just not extensive enough as receivers. So he just really seems like he's profiling, more towards that slot guy, because he's got that quick burst, but it's not necessarily unreal separation. That's what you see from slot receivers. Julian Edelman, he's not a fast dude, but he's quick, he's shifty. He'll run 3 yards and he'll hit the slant and he's open right in the middle. I think you're gonna get that with Tylan Wallace. I think he's gonna be a tremendous player for a team if they use him in that slot role specifically. But you can't take this kind of draft capital, like where you would, or I'd have him ranked in my top 8 for a guy that's gonna be like that.
Yeah, I do really like the fact that he's just always seems to stay up on his feet after the catch and even during the catch when it's a contested ball. But a little slow and not Dyami Brown. So let me talk about my number 6 now, Dyami Brown. North Carolina, he was the number 1. And I have to say, can we shout out North Carolina here? Because, my goodness, do they have some really nice offensive weapons. Sam Howell going to be coming in from next draft. We already talked about Javonte Williams and Michael Carter. Then you have Dyami Brown and Daz Newsome on the outside. I think Dyami... Love everyone there. So that's awesome for North Carolina. But I like Dyami Brown a lot. He reminds me of a faster Tyler Boyd. And if you know anything about Tyler Boyd, he's a phenomenal wide receiver. He just lacks speed. And if Dyami Brown can bring what Tyler Boyd can, but add the speed, I mean, it's hard not to like. He's very sure-handed, and he's a guy that can do stuff after the catch, and just a guy that I like. And he's got good run blocking, too. There's really no complaint from me when it comes to Dyami Brown.
Yeah, I'm surprised you got Dyami Brown here because he was listed as one of my honorable mentions. I do really like him as a receiver. I think he can be fantastic. He might be someone who also features a little more in the slot, just being like, just a slightly smaller dude, but he can still be used outside. I think he can be a guy you use all around and have some success. And I think he could be a really, good receiver. I just don't know about great.
He was also one of my honorable mentions. I did like him a lot. The one like big thing that I really did like is kind of contrary to Amon-Ra St. Brown is he always looks the ball into his hands, make sure he has it before he makes that cut up field. Another really big thing is like when I was watching film for him, when there was like a bad throw in his direction, he would do whatever he could to try to catch that ball. And I love that in a receiver. It's great. But the one big thing is he, and watching him right off the line, he looked agile, but when it comes to like after the catch ability, I didn't really see that. like I didn't really see him like, trying to like make a man miss downfield and then try to like get more yards. He would kind of like just like straight sprint and then get tackled. So that was kind of why I didn't put him in my list.
Yeah, I feel that. I think that's where Daz Newsome comes in, the perfect duo that they had, just like Javonte Williams and Michael Carter. Javonte Williams brought a little more power, and Michael Carter brought a little bit more elusiveness. But Chase, you said you had De'Ami Brown as an honorable mention. You did too, Alec. Yes. De'Ami Brown was my number 6. Well, Chase, your number 6 was my top honorable mention. That's Tamarian Terry. Let's talk about him.
This is solely a ceiling pick. Tamarian Terry, he had a tremendous, was it 2018, 2019, whatever it was, regardless. And then this year was kind of underwhelming. He played through injury, had to get surgery on it, immediately came back and played, put up a couple goose eggs on a honestly terrible Florida State offense from terrible quarterback play. So it kind of hurt his stock a little bit. If he would have just opted out the full season like he wanted to in the beginning, I think he would have been viewed as a higher ranked receiver. But this down year is really hurting him. But for a dude who's 6'3", 210, runs an effortless 4.44, it's incredible. He goes up, makes contested catches. He played gunner in college. For anyone that knows that is, that's a guy who's, when you punt the ball, he's chasing your ass down and he's going to tackle you. And he made some good hard tackles. He wrapped up the dudes catching the ball. He's really just someone that, like, if he's not ready right away as an NFL receiver, you're going to use him in special teams and you're going to get great immediate impact. He can win one-on-one battles. He's going to go up and catch a ball, as I said. You can use him in the red zone. You can use him, like from your own freaking 10-yard line. It doesn't matter. I watched a video of him take a carry, like 45 yards. I watched him take a nothing dump off play, 70 yards for a touchdown. It's just impressive what he can do. If he hits, he's going to be phenomenal. But he also might not hit because this year did look really bad.
Yeah, and he was playing through injury still. Had a nagging, I think he had a nagging back too, or something. I don't know. But he is like a second-rate DK Metcalf. And, I mean, if we know DK Metcalf, he's pretty damn good and pretty damn exciting. Okay. So I am excited to see Tamarian Terry. And there's times where I remember Auden Tate, because Auden Tate went to Florida State, and the chances that Tamarian Terry is going to get up and catch a 50-50 ball is probably more like 70-30. So a little Auden Tate, a little DK Metcalf, not much there that I can hate on.
100%.
I watched some film on him, and I agree that he, has that speed, that build, like prototype, like wide receiver or whatever. And he runs great routes for being how big he is. And he also has great agility, which I think is rare when you have a receiver of that size. But he has the same issue, like another thing with, like, same as Amon-Ra St. Brown. He has, like, that concentration issue. He's trying to turn upfield before he catches the ball. And he has those, like, nasty drops, and it's just, I can't get over that. And another thing, I don't remember, there was one game, I thought it was like three different plays in one game where he was just, like, it seemed like he didn't know what the snap count was. He was slow. Like, they snap the ball, he's still at the line, and then he takes off. So, I don't know. Like, I mean, some of those things, like, I feel like you could polish and get better. So, I understand the ceiling pick, but I didn't even have him in my honorable.
Oof. All right, well,
hate to see it.
We are running on an hour 20. So, for our honorable mentions, you get one or two honorable mentions. All we're going to say is the name and maybe 10 words about them. We're not going in depth. These are honorable mentions for a reason. We got to get through it. I don't want this episode going over 90 minutes. So, Chase, you can go first if you want. One or two names really quick.
I'll do two. I'll make them really quick. I'll start with one, just Nico Collins. Just say the name and good size.
Yeah.
He can be
yuck.
He can have the physical tools are just enough where he can find some success. And the other name, Dwayne Eskridge out of Western Michigan. So two guys in the state of Michigan. Dwayne Eskridge, I would not be surprised if a team fell in love with him and took him late first round, because he flashes a lot of high level ability. Not playing in a great passing offense, but he could really be something special.
Alec.
I have one, and it is Austin Watkins from, I believe it is UAB.
UAB. That's right.
Yeah, and I like him. He has a great route tree. 6'3", big guy, 6'3", I think like 210, something like that. My one knock on him is he is a redshirt senior, I believe. So he's coming in at, I think, 23, 24, so a little older. But great route tree, great size. Needs to get better when it comes to his straight line speed, but I think he could be a team's second or third receiver.
All right, and then my two honorable mentions. Daz Newsome, already mentioned him, out of North Carolina, a guy who's going to be able to stretch the field. And then number 2, Amari Rogers out of Clemson. The guy is just a true professional and amazing route runner. So those are our honorable mentions. Now, quickly, before we end the episode, guys, we're going to go over our top 6, including tight ends. We don't really have to go in depth with any of these guys, so shoot me your top 6. Where is Kyle Pitts in this top 6? And who knows, maybe does Brevin Jordan make the list for any of you guys?
All right, so I'll start. My 5 receivers are all in a row. They just happen to be 2 through 6, and Kyle Pitts is number 1.
I am in the same exact boat. Kyle Pitts, number 1.
Damn, that is some hot takes from you guys. I go Jamar Chase, number 1, and then Kyle Pitts, and then the other 4 wide receivers who would be my 2 through 5 in my initial rankings. That's crazy. Kyle Pitts is phenomenal, and I think if you change him to wide receiver, he would still be phenomenal, just not as good as Jamar Chase.
It could be, but just in terms of like the eliteness, explosiveness, and just the unique like frame and the way he catches the ball, he holds on to it and doesn't drop it. Everything combined, it just creates for something spectacular.
I 100% agree. Dude's huge, fast, great hands, and can somewhat run block. So number 1.
Yeah. Absolutely love him. Can't wait for the Bengals to get him at number 5. Or maybe the Lions at number 7. I mean, how many top 10 tight ends do they need? A lot, but that's okay. That's going to do it for the episode. Like I said, next week, the big boys, offensive line and interior defensive line. That'll be a lot of fun because this offensive line class is spectacular. But that's going to do it for the wide receivers. Let us know who your top wide receivers are, including where you think Kyle Pitts ranks amongst the top wide receivers in this draft class. If you could, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and hit the bell to turn on notifications. If you are watching on YouTube, that would be greatly appreciated. If you are listening on a podcast platform, if you could follow and give a 5-star rating, that would be so very helpful, and we would really appreciate that. If you want to stay up to date with all that we do, you can follow us on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. It's again on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. If you're interested in seeing our awesome Instagram and awesome Facebook, those links will also be in the description. Thanks so much for coming out, and as always, we're not professionals.